Did I play with this player?
Yes.
Myself.
I mean, I guess you did play with it.
Depends what you mean.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Up the Villa podcast, and today I'm joined by Dan Bardell of the Villa View, and it's great to have him on the show today. How are you?
General life, okay. Obviously, you'll know that being a Villa fan at the moment isn't the best. It isn't easy, but as hard as it is, I think we all have to try and be a little bit positive. I'm definitely guilty of the last week or so of not being positive, so... Yeah. I'll try not to drag your podcast down with me too much today, mate.
Yeah, cool. So, may as well get straight in there of yesterday's action. So, what did you make of it?
I mean, I've just said I'm not going to be negative. Then the first word I was going to say was that it was really poor. I never felt like we were going to score. In the second half, when we went 1-0 down, it just didn't look like we were even trying to equalise. And obviously, I know that's not the case, and that's not what the coaching team want. It's not what the players want, but we just look devoid of any idea going forward. You can see visibly that we've improved defensively, but it's come at a massive, massive cost with going forwards, and we've not managed to find that balance all season. Every time the defence has a good game, we don't score, and when we manage to score goals, we concede too many. So we've struggled with finding a balance all season. I just think we've tilted too far the defensive way since all the COVID-19, and we've come back off the break, and I just hope that we can find that balance, because you need to be able to not concede, but obviously you need to be able to score goals as well. But I didn't get up off my seat once yesterday, because I never for 1 second thought we were going to score. And as a football fan, if you're not getting up off your seat, even if you're at home, it's not exciting, it's not good, and you're not going to win games.
No. And I mean, he made the changes yesterday, didn't he, as what most of the Villa fans wanted. He went 2 up top, and I just felt like it still didn't do anything, did it? I think Samatta was really quiet yesterday, and it sort of had the opposite of what we were hoping that it was going to bring, really. I mean, what did you make of the 2 up front?
I personally think it was game specific. I think he did it because we were up against a team that plays 3 at the back. Now, I think if any other team we come up against plays 3 at the back, I think he might be tempted to do the same, because I do think it's a difficult job when you're playing as a lone striker and you're up against 3 centre halves. But I don't think it's anything to do with bowing to peer pressure or anything like that. If Dean Smith listened to what was said on social media, then he wouldn't be able to pick a team, because everyone's obviously got different ideas. Everyone thinks different things should be done. But I just think it's quite telling that we've tried all these formations and nothing's really stuck and nothing's really worked. And that tells me that some of the players aren't good enough. I mean, obviously one player who is good enough, Jack, he's not been in the last couple of games really at all. And it's disappointing, because he's our talisman, and we're just not managing to get a tune out of our good players. But some of the good players, I think, are hindered by what's happened in the summer. And I've said it on social media, and I've said it on my other podcasts. I think we look back now, and recruitment wasn't great, and we're starting to see that now, because whatever formation we try, whatever players play, nothing seems to be working.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously we're playing now behind closed doors. When we was off on the break and we was all watching no football, I was torn between whether it was going to be a hindrance or a positive. And looking back now, I just think it's a complete negative. I think you looked at like the Sheffield United game, and we needed the halt end, didn't it? Yesterday, second half, it goes flat, and it just needs it, doesn't it? And I was sort of thinking maybe players like El Ghazi might step up a little bit playing behind closed doors, but we are literally just seeing the complete opposite. How are you finding it, watching it at home?
It's not great, and I've had a season ticket since I was 7, so I've been at Villa Park pretty much every 2 weeks for my entire life, and it's difficult not being there. And I think, obviously, the football's not great, but I think not being able to go is affecting my feelings and my mood as well. I'm watching it, and as I say, we're not playing brilliant, but in general, when I'm watching any game, I'm bored because the fans aren't there. And I think I was one of those people that thought players might perform better without the pressure of the fans, but it has worked the other way. And at times when things are going well and Villa are playing well, the crowd can suck the ball in the net almost in the whole end, and we just haven't got that. And Wolves aren't our main rivals, I know that, but yesterday was a derby game. But if you'd have watched it, a neutral had watched it, someone who'd never watched football before, you wouldn't have known it was a derby game, and that's where the fans play such a massive part in creating the atmosphere. I mean, do you remember anyone putting in a big tackle or a big challenge or anything? We would have made a few blocks yesterday, but do you know what I mean? Like a big derby tackle. There was just nothing. There was no fire, no passion, and all four performances from Villa so far have been pretty drab. And when you're watching it at home, you don't feel like you can affect things. And the reality is you can't affect things anyway. Even if you're at the game, you can shout and scream and sing the songs, but realistically, you're not affecting what happens on the pitch. But I just feel helpless and lost at home. It's not for me, really. And part of me now, I wish the season had just been cancelled. But at the time, I wanted us to take care of business, and I wanted us to play ourselves out of trouble. But at the moment, it's looking like all the other teams don't want to stay up as much as we don't. So for all this, we are still in it, and that's a massive thing. Because if you'd told me we wouldn't have won any of our first 4 games, I'd have thought, right, we're in big trouble here, and we are in big trouble. But we're not cut adrift, and that is key.
Yeah, definitely. There's still hope there. So moving on to the squad, for me, what I'm getting from it at the minute is obviously we need to fight, don't we? We need to be fighting like lions, showing the passion, the desire, everything that you'd expect from the team that's wanting to stay in this league. For me, I know recruitment was a big thing, but for some of the players, I just don't think they get the club at all. And that's part of my issue. I heard Klopp talking when they won the title the other day, and he was talking about how he inspires his team, and he mentions Grealish and he mentions Steven Gerrard. For me, I think part of the problem is at the minute the heart's just not in it, and I just don't feel like they're fighting for Villa. What do you make of it? Are you picking up any of that?
Yeah, like I say, no one put in a tackle yesterday, so it did feel like a few people wouldn't have understood that it was a derby game, that it is crucial. But then I do think it's difficult times anyway, and it's a weird time playing without the fans, and maybe that's affecting some of them. But I don't think it's a lack of effort. I don't look at them and think they're not trying. I just think it's a lack of ability in some ways, and we just look a bit devoid of ideas. Everyone I speak to speaks really highly of Dean Smith and the way he motivates the players and his plan, and that he's got a plan, and he spoke himself about having a plan for every game. But for whatever reason, I'm not seeing that on the pitch at the moment. I don't know whether his messages aren't getting across, but I don't know what Villa are at the moment. It's not what I would associate with a Dean Smith side. And we've seen Dean Smith sides in the Championship play Villa off the park. And what you're watching at the moment, it isn't a Dean Smith side at all. I know it's not the way Dean Smith wants to play football, and I know it's not the way his coaching staff want to play football. So there's something wrong fundamentally somewhere. And a big part of it, I keep harping back onto it, I think, is recruitment, because a couple of the players I think Dean Smith wanted, he didn't get, and he's got these 3rd, 4th choice replacements, and quite frankly, they're not up to it. Maybe given more time to bed in, that they might be up to it at some point, but at the moment, they're not. I mean, if Dean Smith wanted Ben Rama and Maupay, we should have absolutely gone all out to buy them. I'm not knocking Wesley. He's done some good things. He's had some bad games as well, probably more bad games than good. But are you telling me that Dean Smith would have rather spent £25 million on Wesley than Maupay? Maupay knows what it's like to play under Dean Smith. He knows how to set the tone from the front, and he knows Dean Smith's brand of football. So the fact that we didn't buy him and we did buy Wesley, things like that, they don't make sense to me. And as I say, there's something fundamentally wrong somewhere. But it feels like whatever we do, there's always something wrong with Villa. We're never happy, are we? But a lot has gone wrong over the last decade, and we deserve better. And I really thought this season would be better. I knew it might be a bit of a dogfight, but I didn't think it would be this devoid of class, or just devoid of having a plan or playing well, because we look rubbish at the moment.
Yeah, we do. I mean, I was getting on to Suso, and you've literally took out what I was just going to say. So, I was basically going to say, are we at the stage where we have now got the 3rd or 4th choice in player of who we wanted? So names like Webster, Maupay, Benrahma, Phillips. Did we sign Engels, Trezeguet, Nakamba? and I feel like that must be part of the problem, because if you look at Wolves and their recruitment, they've got Jimenez, Neves. The guy that we're asking to do this job, he's sort of getting his contacts from another contact, and we're sort of missing the main guy who's getting the players, at Wolves. So I think it's always going to be difficult, isn't it, when you're signing a lot of players? Obviously, some are going to work and some aren't. So, Wolves signed Catrone, and now he's out on loan. It failed, basically. And they spent a lot of money on him. But I just feel like we gave ourselves too much to do by having so much of a threadbare squad to start with going into the league. And part of me feels like, did we come up just that season too early then? Because were we just completely underprepared?
I don't know. I mean, if I knew the answer, I wouldn't be a fan sitting here talking, would I? Villa would have me involved, but something's gone wrong somewhere. Never, when you bring in 12, 13 players, however many we brought in, I can't remember the number exactly. Yeah. They're not all going to come in and they're not all going to be perfect. We were shopping around markets in some respects that probably not many other teams would have shopped around, because they wouldn't have needed to do as much business as Villa did. The short-termism in the Championship has cost us, and that's led to the transfer strategy a little bit in terms of this summer. But for me, I'm not saying these players are the answer, but would Adoma have been worse than Trezeguet, and you end up spending a little bit extra elsewhere? Keeping Adoma or Green, would they have been worse than Trezeguet? I honestly don't think they would have been. Whelan and Jedinak, again, they're probably not up to it in the Premier League, but I spoke to Jedinak on a podcast a month or so ago, and he was surprised and disappointed that some more of them weren't given a chance that helped to get them up. He thought they should have been kept around. You can't argue that had made a huge difference in the dressing room, but again, would they have been any worse than Nakamba? I don't like picking on people, but what I've seen of Nakamba and Trezeguet, they're the ones that stand out at the moment as not being good enough to me. But the fact that we had the key players on loan last season, Twanzebe and Abraham, and not being able to get them back, we always knew we weren't going to get Abraham, but we haven't replaced him with a goal scorer. There's no goal scorer at the club, and if you don't score goals, you're going to struggle to stay up. Twanzebe's a massive miss, and I wish we could have got him, but Man U obviously didn't want to let him go, but he's had a wasted season at Man U. Suso's contacts have let us down a little bit, because he only seems to have contacts in the Belgian league, and just because you've done okay in La Liga doesn't mean your contacts and stuff are going to work in the Premier League. It's a completely different beast, and we did not buy enough players who have played in the Premier League before. We bought Tom Heaton for that exact reason, because he's played in the Premier League and we wanted some experience. The bit that I'm missing and I don't understand is why then we didn't then replicate that in other areas, and why we didn't think that was important elsewhere, because it is. Palace are not a great side. They're a similar side to us, I would say, on paper, but do you know what the difference is? They've got Gary Cahill. Someone like Gary Cahill at the back, and he has earned them points probably on his own defensively this season. Can you imagine if we'd have had him, and we could have had him? Can you imagine if we'd have had him next to Mings at centre-half? The first half of the season, I don't think we'd have shipped anywhere near the amount of goals. And just having a few players with a bit of nous and a bit of know-how would have been huge. But we didn't do it. We went and got players from the Belgian leagues, from France. We got from Turkey. I think Trezeguet was from, wasn't he? We've got players who haven't played in the top leagues, and that's a problem. And it has been a problem all season.
I think another thing for some of the fans as well, which we're starting to come through now, is the fact that obviously the day after we got promoted, when Purslow and Smith were in the tunnel, Purslow was selling us the dream, wasn't he? We didn't mention relegation, did we? It was all about, how good we were going to be. And like you said earlier, you feel a little bit let down by it now. And even Dean Smith, like, for me, I want to keep him no matter what. That's just my opinion. I think if we go down, we're going to look for a manager like Dean Smith, basically.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
There's no point in replacing him. That's just my opinion. And I just feel like we just, somewhere along the line this season, it's just completely fell apart. And I think even for Dean Smith, in the sense of, we were hearing stuff at the start of the season where he was going to just go for it, wasn't he? He was going to, every game we played, we were going to go for it. The brand of football we played at the start, we chipped in goals and lost games. it was a lot better than what it was now. So the thing
Yeah.
for me is I can't understand how we've gone from playing Arsenal and playing really well, albeit we lost, to what we saw yesterday. It's just totally different, isn't it?
Yeah, that interview you talk about with Purslow. Now, Purslow's done some things that I like since he's been at Villa, and he's done some things that I don't like. But if you read those sound bites from the summer now, they don't look great, because pretty much word for word, everything that he says, nothing of it has come true. And he's not going to come out and say, "Look, we've not bought well. These players aren't any good." He's never going to come out and say that. But like you say, it's been sold a dream. He talks about not being in a relegation battle and relegation being a catastrophe and things like that. And I'd be really interested to hear from him now. We haven't heard from him, obviously, for a while on Footballing Matters, because we haven't been playing football. But it would be really interesting for him to go through that interview now that you're talking about and just explain to us, because what I've read in that interview isn't what's happened. And when you're losing most weeks, losing breeds losing, and then the manager ends up trying different things that perhaps aren't going to work. And I don't like it when you keep changing personnel and system. But Dean Smith is now trying to make something work and trying to make something stick. But I don't think he's got the tools. And for me, I think he's been let down a little bit this season. As I said earlier, it's not the football he wants to play. He doesn't want to be parking the bus and trying not to concede goals and win a game 1-0 off a set piece. That isn't Dean Smith at all. But something's gone wrong, as I've said many times in the last 10 minutes to you. Something fundamentally has gone wrong somewhere, and I'm sure whatever happens, there'll be a massive review in the summer, because the owners, they're winners. And there's no way they'll be happy with what they're seeing at the moment. They don't stand for stuff like this, and maybe you can't just blame one person, but ultimately Perslow's the person that hired Suso, and he's the man who signs the checks, and he's the one who makes the footballing decisions. I don't want to get on his back and knock him, but I do think he's got some stuff to answer for at the moment. But then if we stay up, he can turn around and say it's job done and everything we're talking about is completely irrelevant. But for me, I'm struggling to see us stay up at the moment as much as I want it.
Definitely. So Jack Grealish, obviously in the summer, is going to be the hot topic, the guy that most clubs will want to sign. How do you feel about how we'd react to it if he left? So in the sense of, you've already seen what we've done this summer, and we've signed over 10 players. My worry with selling Grealish would be we would do the same thing, and we would sign 4, 5, 6 players to try and replace him, and it might not work. And if we do stay up, we're going to end up being where we are right now again. So do you, if we sold him, do you feel like we would be able to find the target to replace him?
I think he's irreplaceable, just everything he brings anyway. The fact that he's come through the academy, he's a massive Villa fan, he loves the club, and I don't think Suso will be here, so I think he'll be a completely different transfer guy and someone else making the decisions anyway. But people don't like it, but Jack's going to go. It's just a fact. He's not going to be here next season. I don't think you can blame him. For me, we lost him 10, 11 months ago when we didn't strengthen in the right way in the summer. That was when we lost Jack Grealish, because we haven't shown that we're heading in a positive trajectory, and that's what we needed to do. Now, just because Jack leaves, it doesn't mean he doesn't care. It doesn't mean he doesn't love the club. People are digging him out on social media at the moment, saying he's not playing like the captain or someone that wants to be there. It's absolute rubbish. He's playing in a team that aren't playing very well, and he can't do it all on his own, and he's visibly frustrated. Now, he's not frustrated because he's leaving. He's frustrated because Aston Villa are not a good football side at the moment, and we're not winning games and we're not scoring goals, and that'll be what's frustrating him. I'm surprised by the general reaction, and that there will be Villa fans that will be surprised when he leaves, because it's not going to be a surprise to me, and I'm sure it won't be a surprise to you. He's a million miles away from what we are.
Yeah,
he could play for pretty much anyone in the country. He could go abroad and play for big teams. The career's short. You want to win things when you're a footballer, and the facts are we aren't going to win anything for a while. We're light years away from what Jack Grealish needs. We've probably had 2 more years out of him than we should have done as well. Obviously, he was very close going to Spurs. He fought his arse off to get us up last season. Yeah. He's done his best to try and keep us afloat this season. Whether or not it happens is obviously to be decided and to be confirmed. But he's irreplaceable, and you can't replace him. It's sad, but we've lost players before. It's how you bounce back. But pretty much since 1998, we've lost players and not really gone on to do anything. And that was the killer in the O'Neill era. We just couldn't keep hold of our good players. But we were a good side then and we couldn't keep hold of our players. So I don't know why people are expecting when you're not a good side, you're going to be able to keep someone like Jack Grealish, because it's impossible.
Yeah. So we've got 6 games to go. Obviously, we've got Liverpool up next, United to follow that. Two very, very difficult fixtures. And the way we're playing, I'm always very positive, but even I could tell you we're not going to get anything out of the next game. How are you seeing this? How come? So I saw a stat just before we came on that all the teams around us, we've got 3 points. Out of all the games we've played, there's 3 points that have been made, and we've got 2 of them. How many chances are we going to have to get out this relegation zone? Because it just looks like nobody wants to stay up.
Yeah, it's mad. It's crazy down the bottom at the moment. It's almost like the Project Restart's happened and the teams down the bottom haven't remembered that it started. No one wants to win a game of football at the moment. I mean, I've just tweeted before I came on that Danny Ings is doing more to keep Villa up than Villa are themselves at the moment. He scored against Norwich, didn't he? Yeah. He scored a couple again today. Danny Ings seems to want Villa to stay up, but Villa don't seem to want to do it themselves. We're going to look back at the games, I think, against Newcastle and Sheffield United and think they are massive missed opportunities. They're games that we should have got more from. Now, the first game with Sheffield United, I got to admit, I was quite positive. Yeah. I'm like you. I try and look for positives, and I've always been positive. Ever since I've started talking about Villa on podcasts and whatever, I've always tried to be positive. But the last week or so, they've completely beaten that out of me, and the last 3 games have been so drab that I have been very negative. But we are going to look at those games and think we should have got something there. The next 2, I can only see 0 points. It's literally all I can see, but it seems to be the teams below that probably end up getting 0 points as well. So we just need a win. We need something to kickstart. I think even a goal might kickstart us a little bit at the moment. I mean, we even went ahead against Chelsea, didn't we? But then we do that old Villa thing of we concede one and we have to concede another one straight away. We just need something to rejuvenate us and get us going and build a little bit of confidence up, because everyone looks like the confidence is on the floor at the football club at the moment. And I'm talking about the entire football club there, the fans, the people in the stands, the directors, the coaching staff, the players. Everyone looks like they're down on the floor, and we just need something to rejuvenate us. But I can't say that that's coming in the next 2. No. Palace and the West Ham games are the ones we can't let them get away from us, and neither of them will be easy.
No, definitely. I mean, one player that stood out for me so far is Douglas Luiz. I've been a big fan of him all season. I know he's made a load of mistakes, but I just think if we go down, I feel like he's going to be the one where it's a bit like Traoré. You look at him in 5 years' time and he's playing for like a huge, huge club. What do you make of how he's come on since the break?
I agree with you. He's been our best player across the 4 games, and I was someone that before the break I wasn't keen on him. I wasn't a fan of him at all. I thought he was sloppy on the ball. He seemed to get caught on the ball all the time. He'd make mistakes. He seemed like going forwards he was really pacey and quick, and then going backwards he looked like he was running through quicksand. So I wasn't a fan of him at all. I did a tweet that obviously every time he has a good game comes up about where I said this. I'm sure he was a nice player in La Liga, but this isn't La Liga. But you can only say things as you see him. And before Christmas, I thought he was a bit of a liability, if I'm being perfectly honest. But he has come back and he looks completely rejuvenated. And I can see now what people liked about him. He'd had good moments as well, to be fair to him. He had a good game at Burnley, and he's got some good tricks and some good passing in his locker. You can say that technically he's outstanding. I think it was just the defensive side and the mental side that he was struggling with a little bit. But he's been rejuvenated. He's been our best player, and I'm happy to be wrong about that. I love being wrong if it means that Villa are doing well and players are doing well. I'll take being wrong all the time if Villa are doing well. But your opinion's fluid. It can change. I think sometimes on social media, and that's what people don't realise, that just because you thought something at one point, you're allowed to change your mind. You change your mind based on what you're seeing on the pitch. And Luiz has been magnificent. But if he does too well, he'll be off, and that's the problem that we have. He'll be back at Man City. Pep will be licking his lips thinking, thanks Villa, you've developed a player for us there, and that'll cause us problems because that'll be another player that needs replacing. So I'm not a fan of the transfer in general, but I can't argue that in the last 4 games he's been brilliant. Yeah,
I'm definitely on with you. So what do you feel about the McGinn factor? Do you feel like it's just gone a little bit flat?
I think it's tough when you've been out for so long anyway. I don't think he was ever going to come and hit the ground running. I was expecting a little bit more. Like he hasn't really been in any of the games at all. But then you could label that any Villa player. He hasn't been any worse than pretty much anyone else really. But we're not having enough of the ball for players like him and Grealish to have an impact, and that's going to affect them. The only way to get him fit is to play him. So we're trying to play him into this fitness a bit like we were with Drinkwater when he came in January. But we're running out of time and we're running out of games, and we need some semblance of the McGinn that hit the ground running at the start of the season, because if our good players aren't playing well, we're going to struggle.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll ask you a question before we finish. Are Villa going to be in the Premier League next season?
I hate saying it, mate, but at the moment, no. Come back to me in 3 weeks and I might feel completely differently about it, but I can only talk about what I'm seeing at the moment. I just don't think there's the firepower in the squad. I'm really pleased that they've fixed up the defence. That's brilliant. But we don't look like we're going to score unless it's off a set piece when the defenders are up. I mean, the goals that we've scored, 4 games, 2 goals, which isn't great in itself, both scored by defenders. So we need goals from other areas now. We need Grealish to start scoring some goals. We need McGinn, Connor, people to start chipping in with goals. But the fact that we didn't get a proper striker, a proper goal scorer, a natural goal scorer in the summer, that's ultimately what's going to have let us down this season, I think.
Definitely. So would you take a shootout with West Ham last game?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. I'd bite your hand off for that and finishing 17th. And I was one of those people that got carried away in the summer and thought, nah, we're not going to finish 17th. We'll be 12th, 13th. I'll be happy with that. I think I predicted us to finish 13th in prediction shows and all that stuff. But mate, if we can take it to West Ham, because if we do take it to West Ham, it means we might have some form of confidence as well. We might have won a game at some point. So I'd absolutely bite your arm off to be going there on the last day with a chance of staying up. That'd be massive.
Cool. Well, thank you for coming on, Dan. It's been great to see you. And I'll speak to you soon.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me on, mate.
Thank you.
So it was great to chat to Dan today, talking about all things Aston Villa. If you're new to watching us today, we're a fan-based podcast, so each week we look for you, the Villa fans, to come on board and have your say on all things Aston Villa. So if you do want to get involved, you can message me on Twitter, LukeRobinson89, or drop me a comment below. Thank you for watching. Hit the subscribe and like button. Up the Villa.